We'll cut you guys loose. Congratulations. Great weekend. Romain Grosjean and Alex Palou. And obviously joined by the 2022 champion of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach in Josef Newgarden. Just a couple of stats we'll throw your way. It's Joseph's 22nd career IndyCar Series victory. His first here at the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. It's the first time you go back to a couple of weeks ago when he won at Texas. He's gone back-to-back with wins for the first time in 5 years. By the way, 22 career wins ties you with the great Tony Bettenhausen Sr. and Emerson Fittipaldi for 20th all-time on the list. That's kind of cool. Obviously taking the championship lead is 5 better than his teammate Scott McLaughlin. And Team Penske, it's now 601. You probably didn't get the money this time for this victory, did you, in victory lane?
No, I didn't get any money, but I haven't seen – well, I did see Roger. I didn't ask him that.
No, you didn't ask for any.
He doesn't owe me anything. He's been more than fair to me.
Their seventh win here at Long Beach, first since 2016, since Simon Pagenaud won. All right, so that's that. A lot of accolades, obviously, but for you personally to finally check off Long Beach, how big was this for you?
It's a huge pleasure to finally be able to win around this place. I've been coming here for 11 years. I remember my first race here in 2011. I was running in Indy Lights, and I stuffed the car in the fence with about 2 to go in turn 8. And, I was leading and literally 2 to go. So I've never had a victory here, so it's pretty special to finally get one. Just really pleased for the team, the 2-car. The funniest bit about this whole weekend was when I left this press conference yesterday after qualifying, there was some dude from the LA Times, and he came up to me, like right before I hit the stairs, and he goes, Hey, Joseph, it's this dude. He goes, Joseph, one question. At what point does Colton Herta check out tomorrow? Like, when is that? And I thought it was just such a bizarre question. And I went to bed last night, and I go, you know what? I said, that kid is not checking out tomorrow. There's no way. He's just not going to do it after I heard this from this person. And he didn't. We came here to fight. Alex Palou was super fast today. I thought he was a very deserving winner if it would have played out that way. And I thought we were quick today, and we put up a good race. And so I'm really proud of our team. I thought they fought hard this weekend. And, sometimes you might not be quite the quickest, but if you fight really hard and you come with a good game plan, you can get the job done. And I feel like that's how we performed this weekend.
We'll start questions in person. We'll then take some off Zoom as well. Go ahead.
Joseph, real quick, he asked you the first part of my question, but the second part was to get your first victory here during a time when you and your wife are about to have a child. How much cooler does that make this victory?
Well, I think the cool factor of having a child and us being so fortunate to everything's going so well up to this point. There's nothing that really changes that. A victory's a victory, but I kind of compartmentalize thing. I'm really pleased to get this win for the team. I'm, of course, on the other side, I'm super excited for my family and my wife and for us to, welcome our first child hopefully pretty soon. But, the victory, I think about the team a lot more, to be honest. I really do. All the people that are putting in the work and the effort and the hours and the sacrifice. And we've got a lot of new people on the 2-car this year. It's high turnover from last year, and we're trying to get everybody acclimated and up to speed and comfortable. And, I just feel like we're building slowly, and I can see the confidence growing in these new individuals. And, that this victory gives me more satisfaction from that standpoint than the other.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Joseph, Mike Gardabas for the 562. Sorry to ask another family question, but I've got 2 young kids. I remember being where you are, where the phone's probably on loud, and you're,
yeah, man,
you're waiting for that. It does seem to be a running trend in sports that people in that position perform really well. I mean, we see those stories all the time with, team sports, individual sports. Do you feel like, you're just in the moment more? Do you think that it's having any kind of an effect on you that would lead to back-to-back wins?
I don't know. I don't try and overthink things too much or, read into situations too often. I really don't. I believe, you're focusing on your business. There's outside influences and factors that can contribute to results, but ultimately, if you're just staying focused on your job, then, you get blips here and there that affect a result, but if you just carry on doing your own thing, then nothing should really be affecting it. But I will say, for whatever reason, when there's a lot of chaos going on in my life, we seem to do well. I mean, things seem to go well for whatever reason. I don't know if that, is necessarily correlated to that, but it seems to be, something there. So, so far so good. I don't know that there's a lot of chaos going on, but we're just busy. There's a lot on my mind. There's a lot we're doing, and we're obviously I'm trying to personally keep my head in the game too with what we're doing here at the track and racing in IndyCar. So I don't know. I don't know that I have a good answer for you, but I have seen in the past when a lot goes on in my life that we do pretty well.
Hi, John Schroeder from the Norwalk Patriot. After the last lap win at Texas, crazy, you led 3 laps, and then today you went on a yellow. And just kind of off his comment earlier, how special it is. It's been said that it's something different to win at Long Beach. It's a special feeling. What is that like? Incredibly
special. This place is a hard nut to crack. It's a lot of pressure, like the Indy 500. Everyone looks at this place as a crown jewel of our sport, and it would be an honor to win here. And you feel it within the team. The team was so pumped up to be able to win around this place. It does mean more, than some other tracks. So I think that's what adds to the difficulty. But I was glad it didn't go yellow with 3 laps to go. I mean, it was half lap. It seemed pretty much over at that point, bearing me not making a outrageous mistake, with a couple corners left. So at least it wasn't, some token victory where the yellow was out really early. But we had to work for it today. As soon as I got comfortable, I felt like yellow came out, and we had to pretty much go from zero again. And in some situations, fighting against, I would say us as a deficit with tires. So it was not easy today by any means.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Joseph, you've got your oval win, street course win. You're a natural terrain road course win away from splitting $1 million with a charity.
That'd be cool.
When does that start? When do you start thinking about that?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, a couple of people said it to me in Victory Lane, and I was like, if that happens, it happens, And
what charity are you?
I would split mine with Wags and Walks out of Nashville. It's where we adopted our dog Axel from. They originally started out here in LA, actually, Wags and Walks, and then they have a Nashville branch now that's been growing pretty extensively. And also Serious Fun Children's Network, who I do a lot of work with as well. And we host a charity ping pong event every year. So splitting it between those two if we can get that done.
Cool. And what does it mean to be known to win on all types of circuits? You short ovals, super speedways. Does that make you feel like a more complete driver, or does it really matter?
It makes me feel like a real IndyCar driver, to be honest with you. I think that's what makes our sport great. We talk about it a lot, but it's the truth. The thing that sets IndyCar apart is the diversity of the racing. We love having the best of the best from around the world and having to compete on all types of tracks and having to master all disciplines. If you can't master all disciplines, then it's so difficult to be successful in the sport. And I love that IndyCar drivers have to be good at all those skill sets. And so when we're able to do that, it gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Mr. Frank, go ahead, sir.
Well, you probably earned a little more respect from me at media chats than I gave you on Friday. But for serious question, on the last actual restart, second lap, it seemed like you really pulled away from Roman. Was it push to pass? I mean, he was still on red tires, you were on black. What was it that enabled you to pull out so far?
I think he chewed his tires up a little bit too much leading into the last yellow. The first yellow, he had a definite tire advantage with the reds, but then he was out of push to pass, and I was too, to be quite honest. I think I had 2 seconds left leading into that last restart, so I didn't really have any either. But his tires were just not quite as good as the first restart, so I think I had a better opportunity to hold ground. Whereas that first restart, I was really vulnerable, and fortunately, we just hung on. Thanks,
Chris.
Joseph, last year at Detroit, you had to fend off Pato Award. He got around you there at the end. This year, you had to fend off Colton there in the earlier part of the race after the first stop. How different was it trying to hold back Pato and then trying to hold back Colton this year at Long Beach? How different was it, their driving styles and all?
Well, I would say this was a little easier. The disparity between myself and the people behind me was less. At Detroit, it was a nightmare situation. today. It was still really hard today, but not quite as, precarious of a situation as what I had myself in at Detroit.
Late race restart here, late race restart, then as well, no nerves at all.
Oh, lots of nerves, but I didn't want to give it up. I was in position today. My team had put me in the place I needed to. We executed on our strategy. We'd gone a little bit longer. We maximized our final laps before pitting, and we got ourselves in position to win. We were leading the race, and I didn't want to give that up. But it's no doubt nerve-wracking. I get nervous. I get nervous in every race. It's a normal thing to cope with, and I think that's the key is just you cope with it. You end up utilizing it in a good manner. Not letting it consume you.
And how much are you looking forward to getting back to Barber, even though last year wasn't so well, but kind of putting last year in the rearview mirror and all that stuff going ahead?
Yeah, no doubt. It's behind us, and we'd love to go back. I'd love to go back and redeem myself. It was certainly a bruise that I've not had before around that place, and typically it's been a strong venue for us, so I'm encouraged going back. I think we can have a good run there this year.
And that leads to this People Ready Force for Good challenge, the first entrant this year to win on road course, street course, and oval. It's $1 million you split between the team and your favorite charity, which you already mentioned. So going back to Barber, you got the oval, now a street course. Barber, you've won 3 times there already, so it's
possible, Dave.
Yeah.
It's possible. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't know how we're going to be when we show up. We didn't test there like the other teams did last week, so maybe we're at a slight disadvantage. But we put our heads together. We're a pretty smart group. We'll see what we got when we show up there.
We'll see. Okay, Nate. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. First, as a former newspaper employee, I feel like I should thank you for restoring our faith in the relevancy of American newspapers. So,
absolutely,
thanks, Joseph.
Nate. Absolutely.
So some drivers look at the big game trophies as being the ones that win. Obviously, Elio, 2 Rolexes, 4 Indy 500s. How much do the marquee events matter to you?
They matter. They definitely matter. I think people put a lot more. They put a lot more respect behind them, right? I think when you see someone like Elio is a great example of 4 Indy 500s and 2 Rolexes now. That's a big deal. If he only won 20 races total in his career or something, maybe say 15, but he had all that, that kind of weights him in a different category, right? So I think it's weighted differently, no doubt, than just outright wins. So I go for those 2. I would love to get some more big game, but I'm definitely a guy of averages. I just try and let's get as much as we can across the board, and that's typically what leads into championships. So 2 different conversations, I'd say. The championships are on the average side, and then if you're not going for championships, you can just go for the big prestigious events. And some people have careers where those are the ones they knock down.
Yeah. But in that vein, I noticed when Marty asked you about winning 2 in a row, you immediately steered it to, I want the Borg Warner Trophy. I really want that.
I do. I'm focused on it. I can't do more than what I've done in the past. I can tell you that. So I'm not putting extra pressure on myself that I have to do some superhuman feat. It's just not, for whatever reason, just not clicked yet. And so I'm just staying the course. I'm gonna put my best effort forward like every year, and I'm gonna try and put myself in position to maybe win the race. And I just, one of these years it's got to work out. I would love to do that for our team. It's a tough one to win. I think that's what makes it so special. You can go your whole career and win the Indy 500, and I accept that if that's the case. But I'm not going to go down without a fight.
Does a win like this make you feel more confident, or is it just that's its own separate entity?
No, I don't think it's changed my confidence level. Up or down. It is what it is in my eyes. I fight the same fight every year, and that's all I can do. I just can do what's in my control, and I hope this year is the year for us. And you never know where that's going to be.
Last one for me. When I talked to you in January, I remember you had just talked, I think, to Cindric, and you had this conversation about where you said, "Hey, we're going to level up. I want to win 6 times this year. We're really going to go after it." Do you remember the context of that? Was that that you kind of have this new team around you, and maybe you guys were talking about how to approach 2022? And has it worked out even better, I guess, than you would have expected through the first 3 races with a new team?
Was that in an interview that
Yeah.
We were chatting, right?
Yeah.
Was it Media Day or?
It was Media Day.
Media Day, yeah. I do remember saying that. I can't remember the context I was saying it in, but I think where I was probably going with that is, when I look at the last 2 years and just falling short on the championships, we do just need to find another gear. It's not like we've been in a bad place. We've been in conversation every year, and pretty much most races we're in the conversation, but we just need to go to that next level to where it doesn't have to be close. Let's get to a place where we're there and we're trying to seal the deal at the end. Can we get this done early? Let's get ourselves in a more advantageous position. So I think that's what I meant by leveling up. And so far I feel like that's happening. I feel the build in the 2-car, I really do, but you got to be cautious. It's early. It's 3 races in. It's so hard to paint a complete picture. It's easy to paint these small pictures and say, look, this is everything. But then the picture changes really quickly, in another couple races. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I feel really good about where it's going.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. 2 more here, and then we'll take a couple from Zoom. Go ahead.
How you doing? John W. Davis with the Southern California News Group and the Long Beach Press Telegram here. I had a question. I was out on the course watching the race, and can you kind of talk to me about turn 8? It seemed like a lot of debris was picking up there, and it seemed like it was hard for some of the drivers to navigate. What was it like for you?
It was. The course was getting difficult because there was so much rubber on the track that it was compiling on top of each other, that it was starting to peel up and then spread out across the track. So you would slide slightly offline and pick up big chunks of rubber, and so it was like the surface got really grainy. It wasn't smooth where you just have a nice consistent profile. It was just filled with these chunks of rubber everywhere. So I think that's what you were probably seeing, is if you got offline there, it was really easy to catch one of those sections where it was all chunked up. So not easy. I just think there was so much grip this weekend, so much rubber being laid down between the IMSA series and ourselves that's what made it so difficult at the end. It was just starting to, compile too much almost. Thanks.
Thank you. Nathan.
Joseph, you said earlier about how you really like to take things one race at a time, really try to just focus on yourself internally and not let a lot of outside noise get to you. And I just think of last year when I know several of us, including me, had mentioned to you about how Team Penske hadn't capitalized on a win the first half of the year. And when you had one, I know that seemed like it had annoyed you a little bit. The comment that seemed like it drove you from yesterday to today. Are you someone that really feeds off of, I don't know if it's being slighted or outside motivation that you feel like you can kind of charge yourself with?
I really don't. There's obviously athletes we can look at over the years that sort of use it as fuel, right? Michael Jordan's probably I love these documentaries too on these super successful athletes to see the mental side of them. And I don't know that I'm wired that way. I don't take fuel in, where if someone says I'm not good at something or they, attack our team, or maybe I could twist a comment and use it as a negative towards us. I don't use that type of stuff as fuel to better myself. I'm a very pragmatic person. It is what it is. Things are the way they are. And I just focus to your comment. I focus on what we can control. And so I try and look at things very clearly and just stay level. I know where we're at. If we didn't win races in the first, 8 races last year and everyone's wondering what's going on, well, I know what's going on. I'm inside the camp and I knew we were good. We just hadn't clicked off a win yet. So it didn't bug me. I thought it was fun. I thought it was really funny how down everyone was on Team Penske. And I'm like, I don't know. I think we're pretty good. Wait till we click one off here, because we'll probably get 2 or 3 if we get on a roll. And that's pretty much what happened. And then the yesterday comment was just really funny to me. I was like, man, that is ballsy to say that. You got to be really confident to think that in the IndyCar Series that exactly what's going to happen. I would not bank on that these days. Not in IndyCar.
I had before the race weekend, I'd done a little number crunching, and I know we hear a lot about how strong Andretti Autosport is on street course venues. You guys had, in a couple different ways, had the better of them, I think, since the start of 2019. Do you feel like you guys get enough respect for how strong you guys have been on street courses lately, and do you feel like you potentially have the strongest street course in the package in the paddock right now?
Well, I don't think we need any more respect. Everyone's been very kind to Team Penske. It's obviously a storied, team, has a lot of history, and Roger I don't think you can look at anyone better to have a career than Roger Penske, and the way that he carries himself and represents the team. So I don't ever feel like we're lacking the respect or that people are discounting us. I don't think anyone ever really does. But I think everyone holds us to a very high standard, and if we're not excellent every single moment, then there's something wrong. And I understand that. With this type of history at a place like Team Penske, you totally get it. That's how highly successful franchises are viewed. But I do feel like Andretti is an incredibly formidable and not enemy. I was going to say enemy competitor. And for us, we do not discount them. I think they were slightly ahead of us this weekend. I really do. They just had a tick on us. But I would say at St. Pete we had a tick on them. So this is going to ebb and flow across the year when we go to Detroit, Toronto. I think that can go up and down, and our different packages probably suit different conditions and track styles slightly. We're going to have a very good battle. They're super difficult to beat right now across the board, and we've just got to continue to elevate our program so that we can match them. And if we're not matching them, we need to be close. And I feel like that's what happened this weekend. We didn't quite match them, but we were super close, and we executed and still ended the weekend pretty solidly.
And last one for me, as strong as you have been sometimes to start seasons, 2018 I think kind of sticks out to me in terms of when you've been with Team Penske. Years in which you've won a championship, 17 and 19, really kind of kicked it up another notch at the end of the season, won 3 races, I think, in the latter half, both of those years. In years when you have started strong versus years when you have really finished incredibly strong, how do those seasons feel differently when you're going through them?
Yeah, some of them are so circumstantial. Like, I thought 2020 was one of our strongest seasons we've ever had, and we lost the championship, by just a little bit. And I thought we started the year incredibly well, and we had one thing after the other happen, and we just couldn't get a win for like 4 or 5 races before it finally clicked. And it had nothing to do with our form. Our form was incredible. I was really shocked, at how 2020 transpired because of how good I thought we were performing. So I guess I say that to you because they're all so different. I don't read too much into trends because they all kind of take their own shape. And I focus on where we are, truly from a performance standpoint. So we could have a terrible start to the year, but if the performance is there and the results aren't coming for, outside circumstances that weren't in our control, well, then I'm not going to freak out. Eventually that's going to come to us and it'll play out towards the end of the year. And I'm also very cautious that if we start a year super well, like say this year, things can turn like super quick and we'll all of a sudden have to get on top of it and, try and rectify it. So yeah, the trends for me are hard to follow because they can change so quickly. And I feel like every season just takes its own shape. So, I don't know that I'm going to compare right now and what's going on in 2022 to any other year at the moment.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Ben, Tim, Jack on Zoom, stand by. Marshall Pruitt here in person. Go ahead.
You missed a hell of a jumpy truck race answering all of our dumb questions.
Was it good?
Oh,
Yeah.
Guy spun at the finish, laid down on the start-finish line.
These guys are so fun to watch. You have no idea. I bet everybody in their haulers, at least we do, in Team Penske, we're watching these races when they're on. They're super fun.
Joseph, can you speak to the downsizing of Team Penske to 3 cars? Are we seeing the effect of that? Because when I spoke with RP a couple days ago, he said what we're seeing now with 3 wins will with 3 top 5s in the first 3 races. He hasn't done that since his championship year. This looks like the effects of downsizing and tightening your product to get back to this competitive state you're used to. Is that what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I do. We felt like that could be the case. We've compacted everything. We've, we've narrowed in on, kind of our focus and what we need to be, really looking at and how we can control the whole group. And it's a little easier to get your arms around it when it's 3 versus 4. So I do think there's a positive impact short term, that we're seeing going from 4 to 3. I caution that because, I think if we stayed at 4, we still could have had the beneficial results we're seeing now. But I think from a short-term standpoint, we've definitely made a gain by just being able to be more concise and, put more effort in, the whole thing and get our arms around it. So that's definitely happening. And the big thing at Team Penske right now is, I felt like we were super strong last year, but it was more so on the 2-car. And we needed to elevate the whole program, and we've done that. We've taken a big step across the board. I feel like everybody's, firing on all cylinders, and that's only good for the entire organization. When the whole organization is up, then we're all lifted, and I'm really feeling that effect at the moment.
Last thing, have you had a chance at all since Victory Lane to look at your phone and see all the dad jokes about Pagano making the Newgarden at the
Was
water
that
fountain?
Simon?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's 3 or 4 cars that are like the same with, the pink cars. There's just a bunch of them. Maybe it's just Elio and it's Elio, Simon, and
Dave, we need a limit on. We need to get some of these liveries figured out, buddy.
Rossi. Yeah. It's like I didn't know who it was. I was like, someone's in the garden finally. No one's ever been in there.
All right. Well, anyways, you got a lot of mentions to look forward to.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Marshall.
All right, just a couple off Zoom. Let's go ahead and begin with Tim Haraney. Tim, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Dave. Appreciate it. Congratulations, Joseph. I was wondering if you might be able to go in a bit more detail at this question, considering the amount of marbles that were out there today. I mean, just how difficult was it to defend? And was there anything you had to do differently at this circuit compared to others? I mean, considering you have corners that are off camber, a lot of bumps all over, even under braking.
It was tricky, Tim. I had to be, I had to make sure that if I got offline, I didn't get off much, just because it was, particularly on the outside, I felt like if I was defending, I wanted to make someone go to the outside. The outside seemed to be the worst place on track. You could deal with the inside marbling and offline dirt a lot better than the outside. So yeah, it was tricky. There was just so much rubber on the track, and it was accumulating, tremendously, and it was just starting to peel up and push offline that it was really difficult to do anything in those areas. But we all navigated it, as best we could, and fortunately didn't get the bad end of it today.
And just a quick question on the tire dag. Was it heavy today, and did the new pavement that was laid down here, did that help or hinder, I guess, the tire in the race?
I thought the red drop off more substantial than I predicted it would be. I thought with the elevated track grip, we're so much quicker this weekend. There was so much rubber on the track. I really thought the tire life on the reds would be pretty impressive, and it was the opposite. Ramon actually did a really aggressive strategy there at the end to go to used. There's more opportunity to let the tires survive at the end because there's more rubber down. But that first stint was really difficult. I think on anybody that had used reds on the first stint probably died and went backwards. And even the new reds were really difficult to make last. So that was a surprise to me. I thought they would hang in there a little better, but it definitely dissuaded us from going to those at the end. We thought primary would be the way to be.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Joseph. Really appreciate it. Congratulations, and thanks, Dave. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Tim. Wrap things up. Ben Johnson standing by. Ben, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, Dave. Cheers. Congratulations, Joseph, on the win. Fantastic result for yourself and the team. We spoke in the build-up to the race this weekend about the changes that have been made on the number 2 car. How much confidence and kind of momentum does this give you for yourself, kind of with the changes that have come in? How well you've gelled kind of going into the month of May?
Yeah, it's been good. We got a long way to go, but the build has been really pleasing on the 2 car. There's a lot of new people there, a lot going on, and I've talked on that a lot. But I think everyone's finding their footing pretty quickly, and they're growing in confidence. Texas was a big boost. This is going to be another boost. So it's my job to motivate the team, and to keep them directed, where we need to be going. And I feel like we've started that journey on the right foot, and let's try and keep it on the right track is where my mind is at. But so far so good. I feel really positive about it.
Excellent. Well, best luck for Barber, and see you in Indy.
Thanks, man.
It's time to talk IndyCar on Prime Sports Network. That means Eric Smith from RaceReviewOnline.net is going to join me to preview the race coming up in Alabama. And that's going to be, depending on when you're looking at this video, you could be looking at this video following the press conference on Sunday's race at Long Beach, or you could be looking at this video just a few days before the race. Either way, it works. And that's because we have a lot to talk about in a short period of time regarding this race, the Grand Prix of Alabama, which is actually the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama. And Eric, what do we know about this race, and what's the significance of it?
Well, it's honestly of big significance, as this is the last year of the contract for it. I think it'll come back. It's a track drivers love.
Oh, really? This is it?
Yep. This is it for the contract. It was supposed to be a couple years ago. COVID shifted. Well, they didn't go in 2020, naturally. Came back in 2021. So that 2020 year was shifted to 21. 21 shifted to 22, and this is the last year. So I think it'd be back. Drivers love it. Fans love it. It's a good scenic road course.
And why don't they? Why is the contract run out?
I think it's just negotiating.
Oh, okay.
They haven't.
Is it a good race?
And yeah, it's a strategy race. This is a race. It was initially made as a motorcycle track, so as you can tell, it's narrow. You could pass, you just can't pass a lot. There's certain braking zones and passing markers, but it's more of a strategy type race. Last year, it was really a 2-stop or a 3-stop strategy, and what I mean by that is you can stop twice. Your tires will last a little bit longer, which means you probably want to go on a harder compound, slower burst of speed, or you go on the reds. You could get a quicker burst of speed, but they fall off, but you're going to pit it more times. So
is that similar to the NASCAR race at Richmond?
Exactly.
Okay.
It is exactly what it is. So last year, Pelot was on a 2-stop strategy. The thing was, to rewind to last year, Pato O'Ward and Alexander Rossi are on the front row. O'Ward took off, was leading the race. He pit on, I think it was like lap 19, or 17. The thing was he pit, which would, most people thought, oh, he's doing a 3-stop strategy. Rossi followed him in pit road. He didn't pit because he was on a 3-stop strategy. He pit because he had a cut tire and he was losing lap time and losing air. And they thought, well, we might as well switch and do a 3-stop strategy because I don't think we're going to make it all the way to the end of this stint with this tire. Rossi followed him down pit road, handed the lead to Pelot. Pelot goes on a 2-stop strategy and wins the race. So it just depends on cautions. And with this being, there's not a lot of area to hit a wall. There's a lot of runoff area. Yes, you could slide through and hit a wall and bring out a caution, but it's big enough to where you don't get a lot of cautions. So pit strategy, overcut, undercut, 2-stop, 3-stop, you got all that jazz. So it's definitely a strategy race rather than one where you're probably going to see a lot of passing.
So out of the 11 races, the one constant trend, and for an IndyCar racetrack, the trends are kind of average. I mean, it's not like you have. I know when we did the race, the show for Long Beach, I think Colton Herta kind of broke the trend by starting 14th and winning. But here, the trends are again, considering it's IndyCar, it's not that bad. Except it's not that perfect, I should say, except for if you are gonna race here, you better start in the top 10. So all 11, 100% trend. All 11 race winners started in the top 10. And the last 4, actually, if you take a look at it, with the exception of 2 drivers, 9 of them started in the top 5. So that just is normal IndyCar racing, though. But again, you start outside the top 10, and chances are you're not going to win this race.
Yeah, that's where the strategy comes to play. Is you have to, is because, like I said, there's not a lot of passing space. And if you go on natural road courses, so a track like this, the Indy road course, Road America, Mid-Ohio, Portland, Laguna Seca, those type of tracks, not street courses, but not ovals. They're called natural road courses. They're all tough to pass on. Well, if you go back to 2016, the last 39 races on these, 37 of them have been won from a top 10 starting spot. So it's not just Barber. Oh. It's natural road courses in general. Okay. And in fact, 21 of those came from the pole. 30 of the 39 are from the Fast Six. So really, to say this race is going to be won in qualifying on Saturday of that race weekend. So if you don't make it out of the first round, which would be the top 12, you probably got no shot of winning. You're kind of fighting for just getting in the top 5 at that point. If you get in the top 12, you want to start in the top 10, naturally, as we said. But to further your odds, you really want to make it to the Fast Six, get to the final round, and really open your shot of a race victory. So that's why I say a lot of these natural road courses, the races are won in qualifying on Saturday, because that can make or break your race winning chances, which I know this isn't a handicapping show, but that's why in IndyCar races, you really want to pay attention to the odds and really want to jump on the long shots early in the week.
Yes.
Because if they qualify well, they're really going to drop odds. the guys up front are probably going to qualify well in general. Their odds aren't going to change much.
Yeah.
So jump in on the longer shots early, and then you can always bet the favorites during the race weekend. But qualifying is key in IndyCar, and those stats prove that you've got to have a good qualifying. But that makes practice important because there's only a couple of them. So you got to land it right. You don't have a lot of time to mess around.
Okay, now let's go over the favorites. Your top contenders, Alex Palou, obviously. Not
Sure.
only did he win the race last season, but he had 3 wins in his championship season last year that came on these types of natural road courses.
Yeah, he'd be the top guy. And this is also insane at the first natural road course race of the 2022 season, too. So we haven't run on one yet this year. We've had 2 street courses and an oval. So, but this is kind of where NASCAR's mile and a halfs were their bread and butter. This is kind of IndyCar's bread and butter right now. We've got a lot of natural road courses on the schedule, and you can take a lot over from one to the other. We actually talked to Alexander Rossi in the test in Indianapolis. They didn't actually get to do because it was too cold. But he mentioned that you can test. Why test at Indy when there's 2 races there? Why would you come back? Because he said they're going to come back in June and test. Why would you come back in June when you already raced there in May and only have 1 race left? And he said you can use the data from Indy and apply it to other natural road courses, and it's in their backyard. So why not? So that's what he said. Your road course package is kind of your road course package. So you could probably see a lot that's going to happen in Barber, and then the next race after Barber is on the Indy road course. So we've got 2 in a row. So a lot of the drivers chose to test at Barber earlier this week on Monday before they head to Long Beach to get some extra data for this race. So I feel like right now, without knowing a lot of the data, because you haven't raced there yet, you got to start with Alex Palou.
Okay.
He's got to be your favorite.
And he's 1 for 1 at this track.
1 for 1. Yeah.
He's perfect. Okay. Josef Newgarden, he has 3 wins in his career at this track.
Yeah, he's won 2 of the last 4 years. He's had a top 4 in 5 of his last 6. He's had a good start to the season. He won Texas. So Penske leading into Long Beach was 2 for 2. So I like Newgarden. He won Mid-Ohio last year. He looks good on natural road courses in general as well. So depending on what number you're going to get for those guys going into the race week, I would say right now those are your top 2 guys to watch.
All right. Now, Scott Dixon, no wins, 9 top 5s in 11 races, top 10 all 11, and 6 runner-ups. I mean, is this guy overdue?
He's definitely overdue. He's like that guy who was it in that? Kyle Busch. We were talking about him a couple of years ago. He's won on almost every track that they've ran on. I think it was Kyle Busch.
Oh, at Kansas?
Dixon's kind of that guy. Yeah, when he won at Kansas last year, he's like, oh, now he's won everywhere. Yeah. Dixon's close. He's got Iowa, St. Pete, and Barber is one that he just hasn't won out. I mean, you got to think, like you said, out of 11 races, he's finished in the top 3 in 9 of them. 6 of them were runner-ups. He's just never won. His teammate obviously won here last year. So can Dixon finally get over the hump and get a Barber win? For his stats, I feel like you got to take him just because he's always in the top 5. Why not get that one extra step? So I feel like you're going to get a good number on him. He hasn't been Scott Dixon-like lately, so he's worth the risk.
Yeah, I don't want him as the favorite, though.
No, you want him probably as the 3rd or 4th guy. If you could get him at plus 800, plus 900, somewhere like that, jump all over it. If he's plus 400 or 500, I'd wait. I'd wait through the weekend because if he doesn't qualify well, he's probably not going to win anyways.
Okay, Award. And he's only raced here twice, but he does have a pole and a race that, again, he should have won.
Yeah. If not for the puncture, early race tire puncture, who knows what he could have done? He was holding off Palou for the early portion. So the only thing with Pato, is we're going to want to see what the number is on Friday when it was released. Pato's always told me natural road courses are their worst tracks. This is the one that had the most work to do. They feel like they're lacking in pace. However, he was on a pole last year there. So I don't want to discount him too much. They just have that cloud hanging over him of his future, which we talked about this on the last show, is until you get the future squared away, you're always going to have that cloud hanging over you. And he hasn't had a great start to the season leading into Long Beach. So can they turn it around? Now, if you could get him like a Scott Dixon, 800, 900 plus number, yeah. If he's listed as one of the favorites, I'd punt on him until you see what he can do on the weekend.
Okay, now Will Power. You take a look at his stats and you go 8 top fives, 2 wins, and 11 races. So very good. But most of his really good finishes came early on. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, he was runner up last year, and he's also got 7 top fives in his last 8. So he's a great fantasy play for a top 5 driver. However, his last year's second place finish was his first podium since 2013 there. So it's like he's always finishing 4th or 5th, but he's not getting 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. Now this year he looks improved again. He's off to a good start to the year. So he's one you might get for a good number. He always qualifies good. Will Power is the pole master. He's got 64 of them. So he's 4 shy of Mario Andretti for most all time at the time of taping this. Things could change, obviously.
Sure.
So he'd be one that you probably know is going to qualify up front. And if strategy goes his way, I wouldn't count him out.
Okay, let's take a look at some potential sleepers, starting with Alexander Rossi. He's raced here 5 times. He does have a couple of top 5s.
Yep, and he qualified on the front row last year. Like I said, he had a good car. He just followed Pato down pit road thinking, hey, you know what? We're going to try to cover the leader. If he's going to go on a 3-stop, we're going to go on a 3-stop, and I heard him. So this year, I feel like Rossi's always has good cars. He just has bad luck. That's why you're probably, especially for him, after the first 2 races of the season, sitting 27th in points, you're going to get a good number for him for Barber. So definitely a sleeper to watch for. And he's one I would take earlier in the week.
Okay, the other sleepers, you got Grosjean, VK, and Ray Hall. So out of those other sleepers, and including Rossi, who would you lean towards?
Probably Grosjean in the sense, weird saying that with Andretti's bad luck, but these are the tracks that he grew up racing. Barber's like a European track. That's what they always say. That's why some of these guys that come over from F1 do good there. Well, he was 10th last year, and he's never seen the track before. Now he's in an Andretti car. He was driving the same car last year that Palou drove the year before, but Palou, they didn't race at this track. Well, Palou jumps in a Ganassi car and wins. So does Grosjean go from that car to an Andretti car and maybe have a similar fate? So mix all that together, I feel like you're going to get a good number for him too. I'd say he's my top sleeper for this race.
Okay,
right
and
now.
that's also because and those are the drivers, by the way, that you definitely want to look at taking prior to
correct
qualifying.
Prior to the qualifying. Ray Hall too, because Ray Hall 4 top 7s his last 6. He's good at Barber. He's good at the Indy road course. He's good on these tracks. The thing is, they just don't qualify well. They struggle in qualifying. So I would grab him a little early. In a sense, if you notice qualifying, it could work against it. You might get a longer number, but he's probably not going to win if he's starting 14th. Ray Hall's got to start towards the front. So I'd grab him early because in saying that too, if he qualifies up front, those odds are going to drop. So he's one I grab early. VK, he won at the Indy road course last year, 6th in this race last year too. Off to a good start of the season. He qualifies well. He's a guy that will probably open up plus 1,500, plus 1,800 range, maybe even longer. But he might, if he makes the Fast 6, that's going to drop to like a plus 1,000, plus 900. So I'd grab him early as well.
Okay, now again, we're recording this on just a couple of days before the Long Beach race, so we could have this available right after the press conference, the winning press conference on Sunday. So we've got a few weeks before the race.
Yes.
So when will you start covering this race at racereviewonline.net?
It'd be the week of, because what happens is we got Long Beach this weekend. Granted, if you're watching this, is probably race just happened.
Yeah.
Or the race that happened a couple weeks ago, depending on when you watch this. But between, we got Easter. IndyCar never likes to race on Easter. I'm not sure why NASCAR came out of their pause and was going to race on Easter, but they're punting on that, as they should. The week after that, IndyCar's got an open test out at the Speedway for 500 testing, with all the cars will be there. So we'll be talking more geared towards the Indy 500 after Long Beach, and then after that week. So this Barber stuff will really kick off the week of Barber, because you got Indy before that.
And then once we get in,
a lot of stories.
And then once we get into May, we don't have any of these long layoffs anymore. It's basically at least every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we had to get through this stretch, and I get why NBC has, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to say this wrong, I think it's 13 or 14 races on Network NBC. So they moved St. Pete up because they wanted to start earlier and wanted to go after the Daytona 500. The problem is when you move something, Long Beach is traditionally always this weekend. Because of COVID, but now that seems to be over, it's back in its rightful spot. Barber, they had to move because here's what's odd is Talladega which is just right down the road from Barber. The Cup race is a week before Barber. So it used to be Barber was in that weekend. Well, NASCAR shuffled their schedule around, and now Talladega is the last weekend of April, and Barber is the first weekend of May. So you kind of had that little bit of a gap. So IndyCar's had a gap, but now it really kicks into gear once you get into Barber. You got the Indy Road Course, Indy Qualifying, Indy 500, Detroit, Road America. I mean, it just really starts kicking into gear. You just had to get to this stretch, so they're pretty much there. That's just there. It's just weird. The TV scheduling is the first race is your week after Daytona 500. The second race, you're going against the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament. Your third race, you're going against the Masters, and then you got to go your fourth race, which is a week after Talladega, which is about 20 minutes apart. So scheduling wasn't ideal, but
it'll get better.
In the gear now. It will.
All right, sounds good. So we will do these a lot more often when there are a lot more races to cover, obviously. And by the way, at some point, we're also going to sprinkle in some F1 news. We're so busy with NASCAR and IndyCar and getting this off the ground. But because what I want to do with F1 is one of my best friends is a big F1 fan, and he's trying to get me to watch F1. And I've been telling him for the last few years, I don't like any sport where there's no parity. So I can't get into F1 when there's only two drivers that basically can win every week. I can't do it. So he's trying to convince me that there's going to be parity this year. Now, maybe it looks like that the first race or two. I guess they've already had a race or two. But I need to see more, just like we said in NASCAR. I need to see more evidence. And once we get to the fifth or sixth race, if I see parity in F1, then we'll start maybe diving into it. But if all of a sudden within the first 4 or 5 races, it looks like the top guys are getting right back into it, and it's going to be, a no parity zone once again, then I just have no interest.
Yeah, I honestly, as weird as it sounds, I fell for that Drive to Survive trap with F1, that it's boosted my interest because and weird as it sounds too, they're later start times overseas, but are more favorable morning times for us. I kind of got into it the last couple of years of watching it because I was the same. I'm like, this is boring. It's either going to be a Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull that's going to win, and it's still kind of that way in a sense. But the parity it's not as it's just going to be Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton.
Okay.
It's just going to be Sebastian. But there is a little more parity. There is more passing. They actually are passing. It used to be the Formula One races. Once the lights go out, the first lap's exciting, and then race is over. You can turn it off and come back an hour later, and it's going to be the exact same order. There was no passing. Now it's gotten better. The Drive to Survive series on Netflix has been incredible. Watched that religiously. Caught up with all the seasons, all the episodes. This latest one, I've got one episode left at the time taping this, which probably by the time the race is going, I've already watched it. But it's phenomenal. My kids are into it. It's really gaining a lot of headway. Their thing, which for a good video, we do talk about it, is they've got 3 races next year here in America, which that's a first. One of the things, are you oversaturating a market? Because they're rising big. And I wrote about this a couple weeks ago, is the prime viewership ratings that you want to get are the 18 to 49-year-old age group. Formula One is honestly kicking IndyCar and NASCAR's ass in that category. It's not even close. And that's probably driven by this Drive to Survive. It's gotten people interested. People are talking. Now they've got another race. But we saw NASCAR do this in the 90s. They had all this rise, and they added too much. And they went away from their roots. Is Formula One kind of doing that by having 3? If you have one in each country each year, you leave you wanting more. Because if you don't go to it, they're not coming back for a whole nother year. Now we've got 3.
Are they going to be at different parts of the country?
Miami, street race. That's this year in May. COTA has always been there. That'll be in October. And then at the end of November next year is a street race in Vegas under the lights on the strip, which would look phenomenal. I mean, it's going to be awesome. But, and I get people saying, well, if you go to Europe and you look at their map and all their races, they're actually closer together than if you actually take Miami to Vegas and have COTA in between. They're farther apart than some of the races in Europe, which I get. But the thing is, this is one country. Yeah. You're racing 3 times in one country. Are people going to pick and choose? Well, maybe I'll go to Miami. Oh, maybe I'll go to Vegas instead of if you had one.
I guess it depends on the popularity of it. So
yeah, you just eventually all things start coming down. You just don't want to oversaturate it while you're high. You don't want to speed that process up. So right now they're on a high and it's good. It's I like having before we go to church on Sundays and having the F1 race start at 9 a.m. and there it is and. It's rising. I will say I agree with your buddy. He's right. It is rising. We'll see. They have Australia the same weekend as Long Beach this week, so we'll see what that race holds.
They're coming. So what? They have one race in the States every year?
2, right? They used to have 1. Now it's 2 because it's Miami's inaugural event this year, and then COTA in November.
Okay.
Next year, now they're going to 3.
So Miami is when?
Early May. The second weekend of May.
Oh, so it's in a few weeks.
So
next month.
Yeah. So it'll be the week after Barber.
Okay.
It would be Miami.
Well, then we'll definitely have to talk about it when it comes to Miami. We'll maybe do like a special show because it's a good idea to get me involved at this time because I don't know anything about it. So, like for instance, I was watching the race last week on replay, or at least I was trying to watch like the last 5 or 6 laps just to see what I was watching. And it's obviously different. And
it is.
It's, being at night is cool. No question about it. They have like this video game board scoreboard that is a little confusing to me, but, and there were the two drivers that were out front and I was like, where's everybody else? I mean, what if it was only one driver out of these 2? This would be a boring race. Where is everybody?
And you still get that off the start. It's probably just those 2. Where at least IndyCar, you've got strategy in play. You've got you could always pit early. The 2 stop, 3 stop. Formula One really doesn't have that. You just don't see that. It's kind of the same guy. It's like IndyCar in a sense. You qualify up front, you got a shot to win. But it's really not. You don't see a lot of parity once the race gets going. Once it's going, still it opens up. Probably if the front row takes off, it's probably all you're going to see all day. But I feel like the broadcast has done a good job of being energetic into it. The graphics are pretty cool, so they're rising. It's a different.
Oh, by the way, I noticed the caution that they had.
Yeah,
remember we talked about. I didn't understand that. What was it called?
Virtual safety.
Okay,
caution.
Yeah, because they had a caution, and I'm going, oh, this is. See, I wouldn't have gotten that, but we just talked about it last week.
See how they don't have necessarily the pace car come out? You just slow down.
I was like, this is cool. Okay.
Yeah. So you could actually, and that's what IndyCar's talked about wanting to do too, where you could pit during it, you could pull down and pit, but you don't lose your ground because you're pitting during an essential caution. But if you're 7 seconds clear of the car behind you, you stay 7 seconds clear. Now, granted, you're going to lose ground by pitting, but you don't fall way behind. Yeah. So that's what IndyCar has kind of asked for. Like, well, can we get one of those? Because it doesn't flip the field. You don't, because a lot of times if some guys have pit before the caution and the caution comes out, you bunch up, well, it flips the field. Well, if you have a virtual safety car, these guys can pit and retain their spot almost. Yeah. And that's exactly
more fair.
What you saw.
Yeah. Even though I think the one guy was saying he was he thought the other driver started too soon. Is that what happens?
Yeah, you could get into jumped off the button and then started taking off. And they've got all the monitors.
They can find
see
out
when somebody jumps off. Yeah. They'll find out. But I thought it's an interesting angle. It does take the element of the suspense out that it could flip the field. I kind of like the idea of you can short pit. It opens the windows up. Well, I can short pit, maybe get a caution to flip the field. It takes that out. There is none of that.
Yeah,
so
it's interesting.
I see the other side too, that I kind of like the opportunity where somebody could go off strategy because you take strategy out of the game when you do that. There is no strategy. So I get it. Either side.
All right. So again, we'll talk some F1 next month before the race in Miami, and we will be back again as far as after Alabama. Next up is going to be Indianapolis, and that's going to be awesome for
right in my backyard.
Yeah, it's like the month of. It's like for about 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be in Indianapolis where you live anyway. So
exactly,
you're going to be at the track.
You're going to see the pagoda and the trees. Like, oh, you're back again.
Yes.
I got to spend more time there than my house.
Yeah.
So, yep. We'll see
Looking
all
forward
that
to
again.
it. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Eric. Again, racereviewonline.net. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yep. And then should mention now, too, while we have it, is any requests for the month of May, any sites, any tours, drop us a note.
Yes.
Now. Just give us some time to plan.
Because of Indianapolis. Correct.
Yep.
Yes, because you're going to be there at the track for a few weeks. So if anybody wants Eric to go somewhere specifically at the track because you want to check it out, you want to see what it looks like, we've got the comment section, obviously, for every show. So just go ahead and throw your comments and questions and requests in there. So
yeah, we were getting some last year, and people they didn't realize how big the place is, and I only had like one day. I think it was towards the end, close to the race. And that's like, I don't think I can make it all the way to the museum.
The sooner you can make the request, the better.
So no, I could plan the month out. So yeah, in request, there is no wrong request. Just let us know.
All right, Eric, we'll talk to you next time.
All right, thank you.